Hi everyone, my name's Anthony Cummins and today I'm going to take you through a samurai battle. We're going to be using some miniatures and we're going to be using obviously some pieces of paper and me pointing things out. But what I wanted to say is that basically I've pulled all the miniatures together from a game called Samurai Battles. I don't have the correct miniatures for the correct troops and everything. I don't have enough, so it's more symbolic when you look at them, but I have put them in the best sort of situation formation I can to show you this battle. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. The battle we are going to do is Mikata Gahara from the 25th of January 1573. Now, first of all of my videos are done to support my books. So if you are interested in samurai ways, you want to get The Art of War, the Sun Tzu, which is what the samurai used. And this is my version, The Ultimate Art of War. And then you want to be looking at the Book of Samurai, Samurai Arms, Armor, and the Tactics of Warfare. Now, but the book we're going from today for the information is Dr. Turnbull's new book, which is Samurai versus Ashigaru. And this has taken basically 3 battles from Takeda Shingen, and he's looking at the difference between samurai and ashigaru in that, but we're going to be using only this to get the information about this battle. So please make sure you get yourself a copy of these two just to support me in this channel, and this is the book we'll be using for this video, so please get that and support Stephen Turnbull's work. Right, the year is 1573 and Takeda Shingen's on the way. He's a massive power in Japan. He's from Kai province. He's making his way towards Kyoto, or on the long route towards Kyoto to try and take the capital, or so they think. Obviously, the capital's always the major target. So he's in the sort of the apex of his strength, but this is just before he dies, and he's moving out, and Tokugawa Ieyasu is going to try and stop him. Now, you have to remember that basically we're in the Sengoku period, in the height of the Sengoku period. The shogun is pretty much useless. So remember, the emperor used to be the military power in Japan 1,000 years before, and then they lost their power. So then you get the shoguns take power. But by this point, by the 1500s, the shoguns have got no power either. So the idea is to take Kyoto, take the emperor, take the, whoever's the nominal leader, shogun of the Japan at the time, or whoever's like, you've got to remember there are different leaders in Japan. There is shoguns, there are emperors, there are regents, and each by each get the power, but then the office loses its power until somebody else tries to come and take it. So even though ritually they still need to take the emperor, take the shogun, be in command of all this to make sure that they hold the figurative power. So if you hold the figurative power with like a knife to their throat and like you say I'm this, they say all right, you're that, mate. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to take the capital and make sure that they look like they've got the most power, even though physically they probably have got the most power. But you need to win the minds of the people to sort of say, oh, okay, he's that, is he can take control. So in this battle, basically, you've got the forces of the Takeda. We'll get to why they're here in a minute. And you've got the forces of Tokugawa. Now, at this point, the Tokugawa and the Oda clan are together. They've combined forces to fight the mighty Takeda Shingen. So there's quite a complex backdrop to why they are fighting, and movements between castles and honor, because Takeda had a go at Shingen, and Takeda had a go at Ieyasu, and Ieyasu came out, and Ieyasu came out possibly out of revenge. As I say, it's a complex backstory, and that it'd take too long to explain what I've been reading here in Dr. Turnbull's book. So we're just going to focus on the battle itself. But before we do that, I want to show you where you're just going to have to use your imagination a bit with the miniatures. So as you can see, I've put them in their divisions. But what I don't have is the correct amount of miniatures to say, oh, this is Ashigaru, this is horsemanship. So what I've done is made it symbolic in that each division there has a commander, who you can see is there, a horse, and some Ashigaru at the front to show that there are at least normal troops, higher troops and everything. And what I'll try and do is shuffle it all about to get some cavalry, but I just don't have enough horses for cavalry. But as you can see, there we are. Let's get online with them. So the army is ready. So let's start to look at how they are formed. We're working from Dr. Turnbull's book, and we're actually on page 48. Obviously my highlighter notes are in there, because that is how I do the books. So remember, we are at Mikatagahara. So there it is, and we're on these dates. This is actually his, if you want to pause the video there and have a read of it, you can do. And what he's done here, you will see, remember we've talked about these before, is the Hachijin, the 8 traditional battle formations. And here it says, Shingen's forces take on the fish scales section. I'll show you that now. So there, as you can see, so here, it'll go that way. So the battle is actually like that. So that is the battle line, and as you can see, there's the battle line. That should be the crescent formation, the wing formation, and that should be the fish scale formation. So there is a lot of debate as how these formations actually go, and I've looked into it. There's a lot of actual variations depending on the school, so it's not as easy as you get. But just because we're following this book, I followed what Dr. Turnbull has put down, and as you can see there, which is very helpful, he's got the letters with the people's names. So let's have a quick look at them. So here we've got Takeda Shingen. Now you can see him here. He is, let's put him here for you. Sorry guys. So there you go. There's Takeda Shingen with his Hatamoto group there, and his major banner. Now in Natoryu they talk about this is the dragon, the great banner, which means if you can just see on the other side, it's pretty cool actually. If you look at the other side, you can just see their banner, and you can see this banner, and this means if there's a problem, you rally back on the Hatamoto. So let's put him back with his crew. So we've got Takeda Shingen here. We've got his rear guard here. So this is, you can see that chap there, Anayama Baisetsu, and he is the rear guard, which is called Shingari in Japanese. But you can see to his right is Katsuyori, his son. So here at E, we've got Yamagata Masakage. At D, we've got Oyamada Nobuharu. Sorry, their names I've not said before. I'll just have to read them. Then number C, we've got Baba Nobuhara. And then we've got, and then at B, we've got Naito Masatoyo. That is the fish scales division with its rear guard there, Shingari, in case they need to retreat. Now remember, the Shingaris, if these get pushed back, the Shingari come in and defend the retreat. And we're going to move round to the wing formation, which is, let's go through these. Here, you've got Tokugawa Ieyasu. So let's get down here, guys. So there's Tokugawa Ieyasu with his Hatamoto group. Hopefully one day I'll get these all painted perfectly. And you can, there he is. So these are Samurai Battles miniatures. They are 1/72 scale. So Tokugawa Ieyasu is here. And as you can see, it's a crescent shape. It's not quite a crescent, that's misleading of me to say so, but it's a wing shape, which means imagine a wing has got the small part is here, then the longer wing is up here. And at J, we have Ogasawara Nobutada. At I, we have Hirohide, and he's the Oda troops. He's the Oda Nobunaga's support. He's got a couple of thousand men with him, I think, or at least a lot of men there. Sakai Tadatsugu, and he is on the right flank. We go on the left flank, which is Honda. Here we have Sakakibara and Okubo. Now they are the left flank. So let's have a look at that. So there we can see, guys, they're all in the wing formation. It's not quite the crescent. It should have a slightly jagged line. You can see here. It's shorter here and then it wings out. The crescent formation would do that. The crescent formation would do that. The wing gives it that sort of almost tick shape. So now we have to start looking at the imagination. So this is a plateau that is just open. It's got mountainous areas around it, but it's just open enough to actually fight. Now, the reason he's gone into the crane's wing in that side is apparently because the area was restricted, and what he wants to do is funnel that Takeda into here and then surround him and come in at the sides and then trap them and then just chisel away at the outsides until he gets into the middle. That's his plan. But it's very snowy. It's really cold part of the year. Apparently there's fog, snow, and visibility is not great. So this is what Takeda does. So they can't actually see each other. They can hear each other. They know that they're there, but the main problem is actually that they can't see. So what Takeda does is something quite interesting. He gets stone throwers to approach. Now these stone throwers approach these guys here, and they start slingshotting stones across. Now the samurai, it's just bouncing off them, clink, 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 and not just being a bit of an annoyance. It's not doing anything. But in response, what Tokugawa does is fire. You see those ashigaru there? His main front ashigaru line starts firing at them. Bang, 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 there. And actually, what they can see then is in this line here through the snow. Let's get it for you so you can see. What this means is as they're looking across there, imagine it's all foggy and snowy, they see flash, 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 flash. And they're like, there they are. Okay, we don't need to send any scouts. They've literally just given their position away. So Takeda, what he does is he gets his ashigaru lined up and he just shoots them all over here. Boom, and he starts peppering into the lines. Now he knows where they are. Now in Book of Samurai, it tells us that the ashigaru first fight, they first go. So we've got to imagine now there's a lot of gunfire coming from here to here. Boom, 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 boom. Bursts in there. But what Takeda does next is he starts moving his forces up and he starts charging with his famed cavalry. However, remember that it's still snowy and foggy and quite dark. Now remember guys, we're not quite sure about, the book itself doesn't give the exact movements of each troop. So this is more symbolic of what's happening, not exact. But basically Takeda sends up his cavalry on the left. So we have here, so he sends up Baba, his cavalry go ahead, boom, and we can see they all come out, and he fights with this guy here. So basically the Hirohide under the Oda troops, they come in and he dies. So let's look for him here. So this is this chap here. So we've got Hirohide. He is killed by the Takeda onslaught. So the cavalry have come in and they've gone head to head on the left flank. In particular, there's a victory on the left flank around here with this guy, as I've just said. So he's dead. He goes down. They take his head or whatever they do, but at the same time there's more fighting going on this side, but the actual original movements are not recorded in the book, just the general overview. But that's what's going on at this time. So at this point everybody's moving up, ashigaru are shooting, cavalry have come forward, and the Tokugawa start to go into disarray in the gloom and the snow and everything. So what happens here though is Takeda Shingen orders a retreat of his cavalry, and the cavalry wheel round and return. So the Tokugawa have started to go into disarray. Remember guys, people start with their armies in formations, but it always ends up in disarray. You're trying to outflank, outmaneuver the other people, but of course it will not hold forever. So then the second wave of fresh troop comes up under Saigusa Moritomo. So here he goes. Takeda sent him up and he's going to charge down. I don't know whether he goes left, middle or right, but I'm not sure. But again, symbolically, he goes forward with a second wave of troops. A lot more obviously than is here, but that's the maximum horses. Now I'm going to have to put the iPad down and show you. But basically, he sent his first waves in. He's found out, so let's go back over it. He sent stone throwers to find out where they are in the fog. They found them. They pepper them with arrows and bullets and things like that. They then move up on the flanks, on the left flank at least we know that, and that they kill one of the main division leaders and retreat and send in new waves which go in. So at this point the armies are going to be getting very close together with wave after wave going in. So now I'm going to put the iPad down and show all that by just moving them up together. So basically now the two armies have come together. You can see there the Hatamoto with Tokugawa Ieyasu together, and now they've clashed fully, and there's a mingling of intermingling, and the samurai are going, and Tokugawa now puts his main force in. So what I'm saying here is we haven't got the individual section ideas, but the main forces have clashed together. They've come together thoroughly and started engaging in full-blown battle. So in the third wave, the third section of the battle, the Takeda forces here in red are forcing their way through to Tokugawa Ieyasu, who's there, and they are getting close to his Hatamoto group. So the Hatamoto is his personal bodyguard retainer, basically command group. So as you can see, the Takeda forces are pushing themselves right up. Now this is where it gets interesting. So there's a castle in the background, and they've come out to meet on this plain, but there are actually fortified areas. Now these are not the castles you're thinking about, like Japanese castles. Let me give you an example. We're looking at this type of castle, basically, in the mountainous areas. There's a plateau down here that they're all fighting on, or that type of thing, and Tokugawa has the ability to retreat to this type of fortification. So I'm not talking geography here, I'm talking about, don't think about the white castles with the white walls. A lot of this stuff is actually palisades and watchtowers and defensive towers. So try and get that in your mind. So what happens now is somebody rides out from one of these castles to come up and tell Tokugawa, they say, hey, you've got to get back to the fortification, you've got to bring the army back. You're losing, basically. Let's get going. So what I'll do now is I explain what happens there. So the guy we're looking at is Natsume Yoshinobu. So he comes out and he says to Tokugawa, he actually grabs the reins of his horse, because don't forget, Tokugawa's not actually sat there like that, he's on a horseback. And he grabs the reins of his horse and turns him around and says, get back, my lord, get back to the fortifications. And what he does is this gent then becomes Kagemusha, which is shadow, basically warrior. And what this means is he's actually on horseback at this point, and he says, I am Ieyasu, I will fight you all. And he starts screaming that he is Tokugawa Ieyasu, and he charges and fights with the Takeda to say, look, I am Ieyasu, so I am Tokugawa. So they all come to him. That is what a Kagemusha does. He's a decoy. And then what happens is the real Tokugawa Ieyasu charges back this way. This is a very famous one, and for those people who follow my work in Book of Samurai, you know this story. The story is in there. Basically, Tokugawa is fleeing back, and there are Ashigaru versus samurai, which is the premise of the book. And it says that basically one Ashigaru is going to put an arrow into Tokugawa, but he, of course, I think he's using a bow at the same time, shoots him. So there's basically Ashigaru around, the horses are fleeing. Of course, these horses here have got spears, but in the actual manual, it talks about how he's shooting bows and people are using their spears to knock Ashigaru out of the way. And it's basically a route for Tokugawa to get back to his fortification. But the fighting is that close that even the Hatamoto command group have broken down. Kagemusha have come in, and the enemy Ashigaru are on him, and he has to fight with them to get back to his own side. Now, the Tokugawa are all fleeing. They're actually fleeing back to a castle. Now, of course, I don't have a model of a castle. However, I don't have a model of a castle, but imagine they're fleeing back to their fortification now. So as these guys are fleeing back, you start to see fences, networks, caltrops, things like that, all the way back to the walls of the castle. And Tokugawa gets in, and somebody's trying to bar the gates and say, quick, close the gates before the Takeda are running on behind us. So what can we do? So they start to bar the gates at the other end when they get, obviously they're much further away, and they get to the castle and say, quick, shut the gates. But Tokugawa says, no, leave the gates open, leave them open. It's dark and it's foggy and it's snowy, and he says, light the fires, beat the drums, leave the gates open. So what he does is, imagine there's a castle over there, you're hearing in the snow, boom, boom. Actually, and let me get something for you. So in this book here, Book of Samurai, Arms, Armor and the Tactics of Warfare, this is Natoryu. Now the Natori at this time are fighting for Takeda Shingen. But remember, in a few years, this army is defeated. And of course, everybody knows this, no spoiler alert, Tokugawa Ieyasu wins and becomes shogun. So what happens is the Natori family are actually here at this point, but in about 20 years, in about 10 years, they're actually going to be fighting on this side. So, and later, in the 1650s, so 100 years later, the third generation of the Natori family writes this book. Well, there's many books he writes, but this one. And if you look here, it says drummers. Now, we've just said that he beats the retreat with a drum. So what does that sound like? So the beating of a retreat is there, withdrawing an army. So it would be boom, 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 which is the retreat. You can see there. So what we have to imagine is that is what they're listening to at night. The fire signals are going, and it's all like they're literally scattering back to the castle in little dribs and drabs. And there's Ashigaru shots going off. There's bows being done, horses stampeding. Everybody's trying to get back to the castle. This is where Tokugawa does something quite ingenious. With the doors of the castle open, this Takeda army here could easily smash through. They're not even close the gates. They could ride through the gates, trampling over the retreating men, and basically massacre everyone in the castle and kill Tokugawa Ieyasu and change Japanese history. But this is an old ruse, and we find it in different manuals. Leave the gates open and people think it's a trap. If it's too easy, they'll say, no, that's too easy, it's a trap. But the key here is, if he doesn't fall for the bait, the bluff, then he might come in and murder everyone. But he does. He actually says, no, that looks like a trap. And rightly so. Gates wide open, lights are on, come on in. No, thank you. So he says no, because he doesn't know how many people are in the castle. But this is what Tokugawa does to help with the ruse. This is what Tokugawa actually does, which is quite ingenious. So you'll see in many manuals and samurai manuals that they say, oh, position the dead. So in Natori Scrolls, Book of Samurai, it says you get points, or, you know, you get prestige for positioning the dead when you're retreating. Now, what does this mean? So basically, if this guy here was fighting in the retreat, and if he's lay that way down while retreating, he's been killed by being stabbed in the back. He's been running away. But if he's retreating with his face to the enemy and then he dies, that way means he was a brave warrior. It means he was fighting to stop them coming through. It's the same as anyone going this way. If he's died and fell that way with wounds on his front, he's been fighting in the advance. He's advanced, that's why he's face down, and he's died that way. So this is where Tokugawa changes the dead. Now, it's not in Stephen Turnbull's book, it's actually in one of my books, this. And it shows how Tokugawa rearranges the dead on the field so that when the Takeda army turn up to the castle gates, they see the castle gates are shut and they say, and the dead are all facing the right way. They're not in a weak position. Remember it, the weak position, sorry guys, the weak position is that. Running away, being hit in the back. That is weak. But if you are facing forward and dead in attack, you're a hard samurai to beat. If you're dead facing the front in retreat, you're a hard samurai to beat. So this is what he does. He does a few ruses like that. And that's the bluff he plays at that point. At this point, in the nighttime, the Takeda set up camp away from the castle. Now, this is standard samurai warfare, the next step. So the Book of Samurai Series tells us, Isui Sensei, in these scrolls, tells us, when you've had a defeat, strike back immediately with night attacks or ambushes. What you do is you need to stop the enemy. Well, first of all, the enemy are all cheerful, happy. They literally relax, like, yay, we've won. They relax. So now's the time to strike. Even if it's not a war, it's not a victory, it's not a battle, you start hammering them with guerrilla warfare at this point. Because your men are scattered, you have to form smaller groups. So you come up and you start night attacking just to get them off their step, because they're in full flow now. You need to interrupt their psychology. So Okubo Tadayo, so he's on the Tokugawa side. That's this chap here. It's night time. The Takeda are settling down for the night. But what happens here is these guys are on home territory. They know exactly where everything is. So he takes out a small group of ashigaru and samurai, and what they do is they approach the lines in the darkness and start shooting at the Takeda. Now the Takeda break at this point, or some of them do, break and flee to the opposite direction. And the reason they've gone here is because there's a ravine on the other side. There's like a big drop, and these guys start running away. So some of these break off and head towards the ravine in the darkness. So in the darkness, they're not quite sure where they're going. You've lost cohesion, and sections of the troops break off. And what happens is, unfortunately, they drop off the edge and a lot of them die. Now, this is because it's nighttime. They don't know the terrain because they've only just really arrived. And this guy's using his knowledge of the terrain and nighttime shooting against an enemy that's relaxed. Now, this is an excellent counter ruse by the Tokugawa. So remember, these guys are now behind fortifications. They're now behind their sort of palisades, and the Takeda are on the outside. Now, they've lost a few men down the ravine, and it's a good stroke back. The reason being is because if the Reds attacked, the Takeda attacked, the white would have crumbled even inside their castle because they had it wide open and they didn't have enough men there to sort of make a proper defense, and they had no time. So he pretends that they're welcome in. He thinks it's a trap, obviously. They then send out ambushes and night attacks to drive them off the thingy, retreat to their castle. They've now created time. They've stopped. So if they'd have continued, they'd have smashed through. But what's happened is they've gone stop, think, check, retreat, bang, we've gone over there. Oh, crap, what's happening? Okay, we've got time, barricade, everything's sorted. Now we're in a strong position. This was about beats and skipping and missing and changing the atmosphere of the victory. So that's very important, guys. There's a psychological aspect as well, and it's nighttime in unfamiliar grounds. But what happens next is, so we're at the end now. We're on this is where I'm up to at the moment. On the end, we're at page 53. So basically, as it says here, is that now Takeda has a head viewing ceremony. So remember that we've done this, guys, on my channel loads. The head viewing ceremony is in there. There's all the information you need is on it. And he views the top heads because that's the way samurais do. They say, this is a good head, that's a bad head. They do divination, they do ritual, they do their superstitions, their esoteric magic. And what happens now is he takes the head of the guy the Oda forces. Let me get you the thing. Sorry, I did have his piece of paper, but he's dead, so I threw him in the fire. So anyway, the guy who was fighting for Oda Nobunaga, who's not here, Oda Nobunaga is not here, he's somewhere else. He takes his head off. He takes his head and he sends it with a messenger. So he gets one of his messengers and Skyban, most likely a Skyban, and he sends him off to Oda's camp with a head in a box and says, here's one of your top retainers. We have defeated him at this battle. This is basically, and the message is clear, and it's basically, if you go against Takeda, Oda Nobunaga, if you go against Takeda, we're going to crush you. So back off, you know what I mean? Here's the head of your mate, we'll get you. So it's all psychological at this point. And then, of course, they leave, the army leave and move on to the next part. And that, guys, is what happened between the two armies at this battle. Right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Remember, I've shown you the books throughout the video, so if you're interested in samurai warfare, get yourself the books. Just to help me, please do get yourself The Art of War. This is the basics for all what these guys were doing. Takeda Shingen, they're all studying Sun Tzu's Art of War. I've tried to explain it basically as easy as I can in the best lessons I can in the Ultimate Art of War. So that's my advert done for that. Please do help get us support with the Natori books. But this video in particular is to help with Dr. Stephen Turnbull's book, Samurai versus Ashigaru. I've got all my information from there. Please remember that the miniatures are just symbolic. They're not actually the correct miniatures of what goes on. I've tried to sort of get the gist of it, and there's no detail going into for the individual ones. That would be a much longer video. It's just the basic overview. So what I'll do now is quickly go over the battle one more time with showing you what Turnbull's done, and so you can see how his book is working. And do get a copy. Get a copy, guys, and learn some tactics from Takeda Shingen. Well worth getting a copy. So we've just done the battle, which is Migata Gahara, 25th, 26th of January, 1573. So it's literally in a 24-hour period. Let me just go through these for you. So as you can see, there's a number 1 there, and the number 1 implies this number 1 here, number 2, number 3, and all that. And the numbers are there up to 10. And the 10th number is there with the retreat of everything like that. Well, not retreat, the withdrawal. So let's go through it. On the morning, Tokugawa Ieyasu advances north from Hamamatsu and takes up a position. Takeda Shingen advances, basically, so let's go number 1. So number 1 is there. So basically, Tokugawa comes up, forms his crescent wing, and Takeda comes down there and forms his fish scale. Shingen sends his stone throwers, do you remember that at the beginning? And Tokugawa musketeers respond, revealing their distance to the Takeda lines. A musket duel begins. Let me focus. So mid-afternoon, that's early after mid-afternoon, the Takeda left flank under Baba advances. Do you remember that when we got it on the left over there? Baba advanced and won a good victory. The second wave, mounted by 50 horsemen and their supporters, is led, and basically they remember coming and go back, and they kill quite a high-ranking guy. Now, Shingen launches a third wave attack and reaches the Hatamoto command group. Do you remember when we went right into the middle of it? The Tokugawa retreat begins, and that's where they do Kagemusha and make sure that Tokugawa gets out while his retainer takes on his disguise, or the disguise of him, if you like. Then there's basically Samurai versus Ashigaru take place. The reason he's put that there is because this book is about that. Then in reply, Ieyasu raids the Takeda camp. So he raids the camp just to get them off their beat. And Shingen holds a head viewing ceremony and withdraws to continue his campaign against Oda Nobunaga, because he just sent the head of the man saying, don't support him or we'll just batter you. But unfortunately, this is now almost at the end of Takeda's life. I hope you like that video, guys. What do you think of the miniatures? Thanks to the Natoryu students who funded the miniatures, the grass, the glue, the felt, the everything, the paints, you know, it all came from Natori donations, which we get once a year. So thank you very much to those guys. As you can see, it's actually that's donations in action. Here I am, sat by the nice fire. Dogs are not here. I wouldn't get them out with the dogs here just because they'd be all over. So I know you guys follow me well. Thank you very much for the follows. Thank you very much for all the support. And I hope you've enjoyed that. Tell me what you think. Did you stay till the end? Did you enjoy it? And what do you think of using the miniatures to explain these battles? I know the videos are a bit longer, but do you mind? Give me some feedback. Right, okay, guys. Basically, I just wanted to finish off by saying if I've made any mistakes, they are my mistakes, and I apologise. As I say, I'm doing this as an experiment to see whether they're decent videos, whether people enjoy them. I've not focused on the individual details of each section moving, just the overview. And so if I've made any mistakes or I've misled anything by accident, I apologise. It's totally my mistake. But I hope you enjoyed it. And of course, remember, support authors, support their books, and pass these videos around and enjoy.